Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I am doing another update for you on GT3 prices. So we're just talking about 992 GT3, so the Touring and the Winged Edition. If you haven't seen part one and part two and part three of this series, I'll link them below. Actually, I may have only done two parts. Sorry, I don't remember now. Anyway, I'll tell you what I'm doing differently with this review, which you may or may not agree with. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I was previously including sales outside of Bring a Trailer as well, so on PCAR Market and on Cars and Bids. But the reality is there just isn't that many sales on those platforms, and they aren't as popular for selling the higher end cars. Cars and Bid is getting better, but they still have a hard time getting full dollar for like the really high end cars. And PCAR Market, I kind of feel like there's a lot of uncompleted auctions there recently, and the other. So I cut them out. It wasn't a very large number, so it wasn't statistically significant. The other thing that I cut out is all the Canadian cars. So whether or not they sold to someone in the US or they sold in Canada, or if they were originally a Canadian car, I just cut them out completely. There was just too much weird price confusion there, because when you're looking at the sticker price of those cars, it's in Canadian dollars. So it's a lot of work to try to kind of figure out like what is the real true sticker price of this car. And then Canadian cars always get a lower valuation when they're getting imported to the U.S. because for a number of reasons. I won't get into them, but you can look it up. It's true. Canadian cars just don't get all the value. So we're looking at just U.S. cars just so we can compare apples to apples, because we're looking for a trend. And I've seen a lot of Canadian cars hit the market in the past, let's say 3 months. So they kind of, when you take them out, the trend does get affected, which is what I want. I don't want to show those Canadian cars because they do affect the trend, and they are significantly lower than the U.S. market cars. Anyway, that may be a really good way for you to get a good deal on a GT3 is by looking for Canadian cars and just bidding on those and then going through the process. But just know this, when a car is imported into the U.S. from Canada, it becomes a U.S. car. It's fine. But the part of the history of the car is still that it was a Canadian car. And don't take my word for it. Do your research. I've seen that cars that originated from Canada, even if they're already in the U.S. now and everything's all sorted out, they still get lower value down the line because they started out as a Canadian car. It doesn't make any sense. That's just the way things are. Anyway, with that said, I just want to dig in through some of the recent sales on Bring a Trailer. As you can see, I've kind of boldened a few of these that I'm going to review with you. One thing's for sure, PTS cars, paint to sample, if you don't know what that stands for, PTS cars do get the higher value, almost every time they get much higher value. So if you're not familiar with my format here, I've got several columns. I've obviously kind of got the link to the auction that I'll be clicking on during this session here. The status, whether or not it's sold or just bid to. I've also removed all the canceled stuff. There was 3 or 4 cars that were withdrawn for one reason or another. Again, won't get into it, but I didn't include them. Just the sold and bid to. Now, the reason I leave the bid tos in here is because I think that's just an indicator of what people are willing to pay, and I think that's actually a really good indicator. So I think it makes sense to include them. But you'll notice like this, the one that only went 3% over, and actually maybe we'll review this too. I actually haven't looked at this one yet myself, but we'll review it together. This one didn't sell. So, there is a little bit of that kind of going on, and we'll see why that happened. It looks like it was a blue car, so I can't understand why. There's some of these cars that kind of get the lower numbers. It kind of is a little obvious why. And we'll look at that. So this is the color. They're my color codes. They're not the Porsche color codes, so I apologize for that. Whether or not we're looking at manual or 6-speed or PDK, a winged car versus touring, how many miles were on the car. This is a pretty good indicator of depreciation, but they're tied together pretty well. So and again, this one that didn't sell had 10,000 miles, which is the highest, one of the highest miles. This one has 12,000 miles, but one of the highest ones. And then the MSRP. So it's taken me a lot of work to find the MSRPs for these. So if there's that's basically all the work is I have to go through each one of the auctions, look at the window sticker, and actually pull that information down manually and type it in. So otherwise, the rest of it I can scrape. The final bid, obviously, that's available. The actual date, the difference. So, what is the difference between the final bid and the MSRP price, and what percentage is that of the MSRP price? Okay, so this is pretty important because when you're buying a higher end car like this, you're looking to get as much out of the car as you can. So, based on whatever your budget is, you're trying to get all the options that you want. Most people want the options that they want. Like if you're looking for a 6-speed touring car, you're not likely to settle for a PDK winged car, okay? And vice versa. Like I wanted a PDK winged car, and that's what I ended up with. I didn't want a touring car. The other options that people really may kind of hold off for is carbon ceramic brakes. Like there's some people that really want them. There's some people that really don't want them. And there's the people who don't care either way, but you may wait for those. And then the front axle lift is also kind of a big deal to some people. It isn't to others. Some people actually want to avoid it. Either way, just so you know, that's why I think the MSRP price matters, because these are some of the higher option cars. Obviously, PTS is a higher option car, and then you also have there is a car in here that has a very high MSRP. Oh, here it is, $254. Yeah, okay, let's start with this one. Actually, before we get there, some of you came here just to see trends, right? So as you can see, if I go down here, we started out being like 40, 50, 60% over MSRP. Settled down to the 30s and the 20s by, let's say, middle of 2023. And then it dipped down a little bit into the teens for a minute, okay? And then it kind of settled back out into the 20s and 30s again. So that's really where we are. And just to prove that to you, here's the trend line. So as you can see, the trend line kind of bottomed out right at about October, November of last year, or October, November, December of last year, pretty flat. And there's actually an increase in the trend line in the very recent months. So it is actually kind of trending back up. I don't anticipate that you're going to see a spike again or anything like that, but this is a pretty decent indicator that we've seen kind of where the bottom is, at least temporarily. I think over time you might see a lower minima, but there's good indication here that we are in an increasing kind of trend line now. Let's see, let's go back to the data. Actually, so let's take a look at this car. This is an interesting one. Yeah, so this is the car. It's a touring 6-speed, slate gray. Now, this is paint to sample. It only had 97 miles on it, and it had some special wishes. So I'm assuming this word touring being stitched in there was one of them, and some of those things. So yeah, I had a MSRP of $254,360, and it's mostly because of those special wishes, obviously, that you get the price up this high. Otherwise, it'd be difficult to kind of get a price in this kind of a high range. So if we look at the Moroni sticker here, so we got this Sunderwich factory commission special wishes option itself was $26,760. That's really kind of what sets this car apart from everybody else. And people were willing to pay for it. Where to go? People were willing to pay 18% over that price to get it to $299, and it sold at almost $300,000. This was in September of last year. Nothing super significant happens for a little bit here. I mean, we get a few cars that go pretty high. But then we've got this car that only goes for 10% over MSRP. That's pretty low. That's actually the lowest one that actually sold. Went for 255. Original MSC was 231. And it only had 20 miles on it. So it's a little strange. 20 miles. Oh yeah, it's not that strange. This is a ridiculous interior. So this blue interior is undoubtedly the reason this car didn't sell for higher. So yeah, you see some of these outliers, and they will sell for only 10% over MSRP. But then you click through and look at the reviews. I do remember seeing this car, and yeah, I mean, who would buy that? It would take a very special buyer to say that's the one I want. Anyway, so that was the 10%. And then there's quite a few that, got above 30% still in late 2023. But let's focus on 2024 because I know we're looking at trends here. So we'll look for this guy. This is just after the first of the year. This one, I want to focus on this because it actually got one of the highest prices ever, at least since the early days. In fact, it may just be the highest price, and I'll tell you why that is in just a second. So this car has the Manti Racing package, which is crazy. I don't know if I've seen another Manti Racing package car on BAT before, but again, this one sold for $315,000, and it's not even a special color. It's just chalk. That's not a paint to sample color. It's a standard color you can buy from Porsche. It may cost a little bit more. I'm not sure. This person got one of the highest prices ever for a 992 GT3. I'd say that was a hell of an investment in the Manti package. And so this is a 2024 car. Okay, those are pretty rare on the market still. I mean, all I see is 2022s and 2023s. It had very low miles, so it had everything kind of going for it, except for the color. I feel like it could have, you could have gotten a better color, but why? I mean, they already got all the money. Let's look at this recent sale. We'll just look at this, probably the last one we'll look at. Actually, one more I do want to look at after this one. So this is, this went 34% over MSRP, went to 282, and this is very recent sale from April 3rd. Of 2024. And I think you'll know why this car sold for as much as it did. It's got the color, this is paint to sample, Albert blue, beautiful color. It only has 1,000 miles on it. It's got those beautiful wheels that I really, really like. And it has this absolutely gorgeous interior. So when you do something like this to your car, there's a bit of an investment in, going above and beyond, but you end up getting your money back because it sets the car apart so much. Now, it's not something I would have done, this bit here, the little shroud over that. But the MSRP is actually not too high on this car. It's 210. It's not too low. It's not too high. It's right in the middle from what I've seen. So let's take a look here. So that's exclusive manufacturer leather interior. Gosh, it's hard to see that. It's 15,000 something, 350 or something like that. So that's a pretty expensive option to add to a car and there's also paint to sample, so 12,000 and 15,000. So pretty much this person didn't get a whole lot of other stuff because they ended up with a total of only 210, and just about 30,000 of that is kind of paint to sample and the manufacturer, the interior. So anyway, with that, the last one I want to review with you guys is this one. This is a very recent sale, again, on that same day. It didn't sell, but it went quite a bit over, and it wasn't a paint to sample car, which is pretty rare for non-paint to sample cars to go, 23% above MSRP these days. So this was just a white car Actually, never mind. This is paint to sample light ivory. So I was wrong about that. Let's fix that right now. So I guess there's not a whole lot of reason to look at it because it's paint to sample. But guys, if you're getting a paint to sample car, you really go with this color. Like, what's the point? It's basically white, right? Like, it's not a special color. It's not going to look all that different. I've seen the ivory, the light ivory in person. It's not, it doesn't stand out. It's a beautiful car, don't get me wrong, but you can tell it doesn't have ceramic brakes. It's not necessarily heavily optioned other than that PTS. So I don't know. You tell me, what do you guys think? I mean, why didn't this car sell? It should have sold. You know, they paid all the money for it. I mean, MSRP was only $190. The guy got $234,000 and just decided not to sell. That doesn't make any sense. Some of these sellers are just insane, I think. That's what it is. Or they haven't watched my videos. Look, we're not up here anymore, guys. We're down here now. I was wrong, okay, because I said before, in my early videos, in my first two videos, I said if the trend line continues, I said that by 2024, we would be at MSRP. Well, the trend line didn't continue, and it flattened out. It started flattening out right around August of last year or so, right about here. And it not only flattened out, but it started to kind of bounce. As of today, just to kind of give you an idea, as of right now, right this minute, there are 110 GT3s, 992 generation GT3s on the market, which is slightly lower than a year ago today. I think it was 130 or so on the market then, and now there's this. Now there's quite a few GT3 RSs out there right now. Let me know if you guys want me to do a GT3 RS video. The price trend on that is totally not interesting. They're all selling for right at 400,000 right now, but that might change. So you know, we might want to get to that at some point. But as of right now, the trend line has flattened out. It's on its way. It's trending up just barely. I don't think that's a real upward trend. I think we're just a flattening, to be honest with you. And PTS cars are getting more without a doubt. This car right here that just sold 2 days ago. This sold 2 days ago. And you may be wondering, why is it in the teens, right? Because this is a pretty low percentage over. And the reason is that 12,000 miles on the car and the guy's still getting over MSRP. That's a really promising thing for those GT3 owners that like to drive their cars and like to put some miles on them. You're going to retain that value still for a little while. This even had the comfort seats, which I personally like. This looks like it's a PDK car. So it's not the most desirable configuration because, you know, a lot of people are looking for a 6-speed touring car in a PTS color with the bucket seats. This doesn't have any of that. Let's see. This is a chalk color and it has high miles and it's still sold for 13% over MSRP. So for those of you saying this market is crashing and it's ended, the GT3 run is over, I think you may be wrong. I think if anything, it's flattened out and it's maybe has a slightly upward trend. With that, I'm going to end the video here. Please leave your comments below. I'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are. If you think that the market has truly flattened out or bottomed out or topped out or whatever it is that you think is going on, I'd love to hear from you. And also, tell me what you think of that Manti Racing package deal. I mean, it seems like in retrospect, now it actually seems like a pretty good investment. If you're going to get that high of a return later, you should maybe spend that $26,000 or whatever $1,000 it is. Actually, maybe it's more than that. Sorry, forget I said that. I think it's quite a bit more than that. But I think you get your money back is what I'm trying to say. Getting the highest ever value is kind of, because the previous high was a 312, and that was just a touring. So if you go to 315 without, with the Manti Racing, I think you've done a great job. All right, guys, click that like button below and share this with your friends. Leave your comments below, and I'd love to hear from you. See you on the next one.